Knicks and Bruises, we are back. Shout out to the chat. Yo, Black is time. I got my guy Sim in the building. Most of y'all already know we just jumped off the MBK channel. We gonna continue this Knicks conversation, man.
No doubt.
What's good with you, Sim?
Chilling, man. Feeling good. Looking good, feeling good. At least I hope I'm looking good, feeling good. You know what I mean?
It's almost there, man. The season's almost there. I know you going through the transition. That's almost done. You know what I
Almost
mean?
done. You know what I'm saying? I'm can't wait for that to be done. You know what I mean?
But
Got
yeah, we got.
another month to go. Another month to go. Transition. Boom.
But in the meantime, I know you've been on a little hiatus, as I just want to feed the streets a little bit. You know what I mean? So I want to talk about some of the biggest weaknesses from the team last year, and some of the things that we could expect moving forward this year. How many of these issues will be addressed? You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. Shoot the shit. But yeah, for you, because I got my number one answer. But what's your number one weakness that you feel this team had last year?
Last year, okay. Well, if we're talking about last year, the number one weakness I think was depth. Right, talking about last season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think we addressed the depth last year. Um, so coming into this season, we obviously have more depth with Jordan Clarkson, Sally. So I think now is that secondary playmaker, a facilitator. You know what I mean? I think that right there is uh, probably the biggest weakness of this team right now, as currently.
Currently,
Yeah, as currently constructed. That a lack of another facilitator or a facilitator that can, you know, get Brunson off the ball. That can facilitate for guys like OG Ananobi and
Bridges.
Mikal Bridges. I don't know why his name keeps slipping my mind.
I think that's fair, and
Yeah.
I think that's fair as something that we lacked last year as well. And
Mm,
it's still maybe being a question mark. I think Clarkson does bring some ball handling. I think Clarkson does bring some help when
mhm,
Brunson is not on the floor per se.
mhm,
Um, but to your point, um, I don't know how much we'll see Clarkson and Brunson on the floor together to the point where he gets Brunson off the ball a little bit more, and I wouldn't necessarily consider him a true playmaker, but a guy who can play make, and facilitate. So I could definitely see that as a current strength or a current weakness. Um, this is one of the reasons both you and I both are high on the possibility of bringing Ben Simmons in.
mhm.
We could touch on that in a few. Um, for me last year, the biggest weakness will probably be, and we talked about this a lot last year throughout the year, um, a lack of identity, right? For the team,
Mhm.
because you know over the past couple of years, this team, you could really be identified as a defensive team more than anything else, right? I think last year we probably had the highest offensive ceiling that we've seen from a Knicks team in quite some times, and I don't know if we ever truly bought into that as our identity, right?
Right.
Early in the year, it looked like we started the year off on fire. It looked like we was gonna trend towards offensive being identity and dipping away from the defense. And it's not like we was a stellar defensive team throughout the year last year either, but we didn't, knowing that we had those weaknesses defensively with Mitch Robinson out, you know what I mean? Mikal kind of being thrusted into that lead ball handler, defender position. I think OG was pretty solid all year, but we didn't have that same defensive identity or tenacity that we had in previous years. So we
Right.
weren't necessarily a defensive team, and then we never really bought fully in to maximizing the offense that I think we could have been, or a lot of us thought we should have been. So to me, it was that teetering the middle line of you know a good to great offensive team, but maybe not capitalizing or maximizing that, and then also just all year long just trying to find our way defensively.
Right.
Um,
And I think that's still one of the question marks this year. When you look at Brunson and Towns being our top two players, great offensively, but lack something defensively, right? How do we keep a consistent high level defense when
mhm.
your two top players, and not just your top players, but your anchors at your two primary positions, point guard and center, aren't really that strong defensively.
And again, to jump into something you talked about over the past couple of years with this Knicks team, and something we definitely didn't see last year. And I thought, if never before, last year was the time that we probably should have seen it a little bit, just to test it out, just to see what it looks like. That zone defense, especially before Mitch Robinson returned,
Oh,
right?
its own baby.
Um, so I think going into this year, this might be something that we might get a taste of, right? We might
Right.
get a glimpse of, just to
Mhm.
see, because if we're going five out and Mitchell Robinson's not starting, those defensive issues are still going to be there, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think that might be one of the only things that kind of offset that a little bit.
And
It
so,
doesn't have to
so
be the
then,
full philosophy, you know
right.
what I mean? But it has to be something that you implement in at times.
And so, will our offense be our defense? Will our offense be so strong that and so efficient that other teams just can't compete? Right? If we're not going to have a good defense, then you might as well lean into the offense and make the offense be, so strong and so good that other teams just can't keep up with us. That was Mike D'Antoni's philosophy.
And not Mike D'Antoni, but let's give Mike Brown his credit going into that first year at Sacramento, right? And having the best offensive uh rated team in history at that to that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
no, go ahead.
Mike D'Antoni's philosophy was we play so fast and we're so efficient that other teams they can't shoot efficiently because we play so fast, right? Other teams can't play as fast as we play and be efficient the way that we can because they're used to a different style of basketball, right?
And by the end of the game, if you're trying to run with us, by the end
Exactly.
of the game, you're not conditioned enough. You know what I mean? Now those mistakes start
Yeah,
popping up.
right. Now I don't know if you can do that today because teams are used to playing, up tempo. So I don't know if you can play the style of game where you play so fast that other teams shoot inefficiently against you. But I guess you can be so efficient and so good offensively, other teams just can't score with you. You know what I mean? I don't know if we be that good offensively where our offense is our defense.
But again, Mike Brown in Sacramento.
Yeah. I mean,
It,
but then I guess what happens when you meet an offense that's as good as yours?
now you have to
Now you got to get stops.
you got to fall back onto that defensive side. And
So
again, when you say teams, it ain't gonna be every team night in and night out. If we could beat most teams with our offense, you know what I mean? That you know what I mean? That could be our philosophy. That could be our identity.
right,
But then it will come, every fourth game, every fifth game, you run across a certain team that can run with you, that can keep the pace up with you, and
right,
now you gotta lean back and figure out that defensive thing. But
right,
going to that identity, I think Mike Brown is gonna lean into an offensive identity for this team, and to what just to the point you're making, that it will be all right. Can our offense be our defense? You know what I
mhm,
mean? Now we have elite defenders on this team in OG. You know what I mean? And elite to above average in McHale, Deuce, um, Mitch Robinson, elite. So we have enough on this roster to kind of sprinkle it around and spread it around to kind of. We're not going to be a bottom tier defensive team. I don't think. But yeah, I think the identity this year, we're gonna have to lean in to maximizing the offense.
right,
Um, Even like you said, Carl Anthony Towns and Brunson being our two best offensive players, I don't even think we maximize them. This goes to another weakness from last year, and something that I'm looking forward to from this year is that pick and roll offense, that two-man game, that 1-2 punch. You, you
right,
know, um, we started to see it 2 years ago, a little bit with Randall and Brunson, and it became it became something a little bit unstoppable. You know what I mean?
right,
I would think with Towns being a bit of a more offensive player than Randall is, it should be even more dangerous,
right,
and should be utilized more. And it took it took some time for us to even find that niche between Randall and Brunson. I'm
mhm,
hoping this year, you know, I'm hoping this year we see it immediately. You know what I mean? Something implemented, something that is something you can go to and the team doesn't stop it, and then you go back to it, and
right,
then you go back to it, and then
right,
you keep going to it until it stopped. You know what I mean?
right, right. Yeah. I mean, it's it's just going to be interesting to see the type of changes that Mike Brown brings in to maximize the offense and the defense. Excuse me, to maximize the offense and the defense. It's going to be interesting to see what changes he brings in, how he utilizes his roster. He's there's some depth on this team. If somehow, some way Malik Beasley is added, he's got even more depth. Or Ben Simmons, you have even more depth on this basketball team. And there's definitely lineups that you can put out there that can be defensive stopping lineups. So
Yeah. What did I have next? The reliance on Brunson.
mm,
Um, when Brunson was off the court,
hmm
it became a struggle for us to find offense, to find our way to get easy baskets. You know what I mean? Does Clarkston change that? You
I
know,
think so. I think so. I think he gives you a creator, right? Another guy that can go off the dribble and create some havoc, get into the lane, create some havoc, push the pace a little bit. You know what I mean? A guy
draw
that can
some
get hot,
fouls.
draw some fouls, a guy that can get hot, really put pressure on the defense. So I think he definitely changes that. You know what I mean? Where you just have another guy that can score the ball. So if Brunson is not hitting that night, right? You can, hopefully Clarkson is hitting that night. And there's a good chance that he will be because he's a scorer, right? He's a scorer by nature. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think he definitely changes that. And, or at least helps with it. Let's say that. There's still going to be a heavy reliance on Brunson. We know that.
Yeah, I mean, but to my point or to my question, when he's off the floor, you know what I mean. The reliance on Brunson when he's on the floor is going to be there,
It's going to be there.
all no matter what. You know what I mean. Like that's what he does. That's what he's here for. But you know, it almost became a detriment for him to sit in the past.
Right. 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 Well, and that was because we just didn't have the depth last year. But we should have way more depth this year, I think, and way more lineups that you can use. And also, I think Mike Brown has got to tap into OG and McCall. You know what I mean, and really get those guys to step up their offensive games. We've seen OG be able to step up when everybody's hurt. All of a sudden, he's a 30-point per game scorer. You know what I'm saying? And we need him to do that every night. He doesn't have to be a 30-point per game scorer, but be aggressive every night.
Mhm.
And hopefully Mike Brown can tap into him being aggressive every night. You know what I mean? And if you get some of those guys to step up their offensive game, it also takes some of that reliance off of
Mhm.
JB.
And that was going to be my next point. They kind of go hand in hand, but just offensive versatility, right? Because
Yeah.
we relied on Brunson so much. I think, I mean, as the viewer, we knew what was gonna, we knew what was gonna happen, right? We knew what the play
Right.
was. We knew who the ball was going to. Um, I don't think we utilized everybody to their strength. I called upon, us kind of running the game through Cat a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, just as another option to get the ball off of out of JB's hand and maybe get him some easier looks and not
Right.
having to create everything on his own. Um, if somehow we start utilizing the 5 out, the spacing I think would allow OG to get into post positions that he maybe didn't have
Right.
frequently
I agree.
because of crowdedness
Yeah.
sometimes, you know what I mean, and things of that nature, which I think we want these guys to expand their game, but I think to expand their game they also have to expand their roles or expand the places on the floor that they operate. You know what I mean, like if you're operating from the same spots on every possession, it's only but so much you can do from those spots. You know what I mean? Get
Right.
OG isolated in the posts, which I thought we saw a little bit of last year, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like a staple. It wasn't like something that we could go to when we needed a bucket.
Right.
It was almost something that we found when when the opportunity presented itself instead of like going and making that opportunity.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's another area where we could expand our offensive. Our offense can grow. Like we got guys, OG McCall. I think McCall could give you 30 as well on a given night. You know what I mean? Obviously, Cat can give you 30 on any given night, but it was almost like we didn't utilize them enough. So I think
Right.
I'm hoping this is an area that we could improve on.
And I
Um,
think that's probably one of his charges, or you want to say, directives, or I don't know, but utilize everybody. Figure out how to make this offense. If you figure out how to utilize everybody to their strengths, you're going to make this offense so dynamic teams can't touch us.
mhm.
And that may be something that he's charged with doing this season. You know what I'm saying? Figure out how you use everybody
and,
in
and
one system, which can be difficult.
and this is my last point. You know what I mean? We're gonna keep it short today. But again, you kind of made the perfect transition of utilizing everybody. a weakness from last year. I don't think that was necessarily the case, right? I understand that we improved our depth this year. But I also think last year we didn't utilize everybody. We didn't maximize, and I'm talking into the second unit. You know what I mean? Like we know our starters played heavy minutes, but I don't think some guys was in and out the rotation. You know, never really got to find a consistent rhythm throughout the year. And then it was like, all right, you in the rotation. I hope you're hot. If you're hot, you get your shot. You know what I mean? But if you're not, you might not be in the rotation for another 2 or 3 days. I think utilizing our depth, and it's going to be a lot easier for Mike Brown now. With guys like Yabusele, with guys like Clarkston,
Mhm.
with Deuce, who was pretty much our entire bench last year for a large portion of the year. Whether it's Josh Hart or off the bench or not, you know what I mean? I think he's going to have more opportunity to expand the rotation, expand some of the minutes for the back end of the rotation, you know, give some of our starters some rest and have them a little bit fresher down the stretch and things of that nature. Um, yeah, what's your thoughts on that? Um, we're not taking shots at nobody. We way past that. But what are your thoughts on
So
how
you
the
were
how the bench was utilized last
right.
year, and even if you don't want to put it on last year, let's just talk about because we got a better bench now. How do
Right.
you expect the bench to be utilized this year? Because we was a bottom bench team last year,
Yeah,
26th, I think, in the league.
like that. I think that the bench this year. I mean, let's say Josh Hart is on the bench, right? Because you're starting Mitch or you're starting your Vaselli, or whoever. I think just by putting Josh Hart on the bench. I mean, last year I wanted Precious to start so that Josh Hart can come off the bench to boost the bench, right? Putting Josh Hart on the bench, Deuce on the bench, Clarkson on the bench. I mean, automatically your bench is way better. Now, if Josh Hart is a starter or Deuce is a starter, and Ubaseli's on the bench with Josh Hart and Clarkson, still your bench is better. Um, I expect that Mike Brown is going to play around with some lineups, to see which lineups he likes the most. Putting OG with the bench, putting Mikal Bridges with the bench, having sometimes with Cats with the bench. I think he's gonna play around with the lineups a little bit during preseason, during the beginning of the season, to figure out which lineups work the best together, which players work the best together to maximize the offense. You know what I mean? I still think, there's going to be, does he go 12 deep? No, I don't think so. 10. I think he probably goes 10 deep. You know what I mean? And figures out which rotation of players work best together. So I expect him to utilize the bench a little bit deeper than Tom Thibodeau did. I expect him to mix and match players a little bit more, especially if you want to play a faster pace. You've got to have more substitutions.
Fresh legs.
You know what I'm saying, to keep it fresh. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's 9 to 10 man consistent rotation, like where you know you got 5 guys, 6 guys getting 20 minutes a game. You know what I mean? And then our main 4 or 5 guys getting a normal 30 plus minutes. Um, but I also think, let's say it's a 10 man rotation or 9 man rotation. I think you're still gonna have 2 other guys on that back end
Hmm.
that get, they're the guys that come in when somebody got to sit out a game. You know what I mean? And can step in and get an extra 15 minutes tonight. That's not their normal minutes, but Deuce is out with a cold, or Hart got a sprained ankle or something. You know what I mean? So now you could have a guy, whether it be Dadier, you know what I mean, whether it be Huck Porty, whomever. I think there's gonna be two guys on that back end that are like waiting in the wind. But that brings me to my last question before we get out of here. Last year we talked about dark horses on the team, right? Maybe not meaning a guy who's gonna have like a huge impact, but I want to know who's the guy that is not in that 9 to 10 man rotation that you think when he does get his opportunity, when he does get his 15 minutes here because such and such is out, or 20 minutes here because somebody's out. Who's your dark horse that you think is going to be the guy that shows something? I'm not going to say it like impact for all year, but impact in this game when he got the opportunity.
Maybe Huck Porty.
Huck Porty.
Because I'm looking at the players that we're looking at signing, and they're all guards, right?
And they're all projected to play.
Projected to play. You know what I'm saying? So that means Kolek ain't playing. Dadier's not playing. So Huck Porty would be the guy that I could see him getting some playing time, more playing time than those guys. So having a bigger opportunity to showcase himself.
Yeah, Huck Porty is my one. He's the first guy I would say as well. And to your point, I think he's gonna have the most opportunities. You know what I mean? Mitch might not play back to backs or whatever. You know what I mean? That gives Huck Porty some time to play. I think he showed enough last year to even get 10 minutes a game this year. You know what I mean? And kind of be that 10th guy, if you will, especially considering how the roster is right now without that vet minimum signing, whoever that may be. So I definitely would put Huck Porty there. But after that, it's almost a toss-up for me between, I think Muhammad's going to outplay Dadier. I think he's going to jump him, even though Dadier has a year of experience with the team. It's something about Muhammad that he's longer. You know what I mean? He's taller. I think he's a little bit more aggressive, like naturally in his game.
Right.
I think he has the same type of upside defensively and switchability as far as guarding multiple positions. So I think he might have that shot to like wow the coaching staff or even wow us if given the opportunity. And but when I say a toss up, I say between him and McCullough because I'm very high on McCullough. I think he also has that year of experience, but it's different from Dadier. It's almost like a red shirt. He was injured most of the time. I think when he came on late in the season, he kind of showed some things. Definitely showed some things in the G League when he got a bigger opportunity. And I liked what I saw from him in Summer League as well. You know what I mean? So he might be a little bit more polished than Muhammad at this point. So I would maybe give him the edge, you know what I mean, with that experience and just being a highly recruited college player and things of that nature.
I think all of those guys is going to be based on what the team needs that night. So, as far as them playing. And it's not even what it needs that night, but who's injured. Or who's not playing because of whatever reason, sickness, personal reasons, or whatever, is going to determine whether or not those guys play. I think, and then, obviously, if Mitch is out, Huck Porty will play. If one of your wings are out, then now we're talking about maybe Muhammad plays, right? If OG is out, maybe Muhammad is bumped into the lineup or something like that. So, it's going to be, fortunate for them. Guys like Mitch and OG get hurt. So they may
I
get a
mean,
chance to get out there. You know what I mean?
and Nick Yak, when we say getting hurt, we're not talking about long term. We talking about missing a game or two here, and it happens every year with everybody. We're not calling out Mitch. Mitch is my guy. I think this is gonna be his best year, and he plays his most games. I think this year, and I'm going on record with that with Mitch. He's gonna make it a tough decision for what the Knicks do come next year, because I also think Mitch is gonna price himself out of our price range, unfortunately, and the Knicks are gonna have to make a decision whether they want to go into that second apron, go above that second apron to retain him or not.
I guess some of that is also going to depend on Huck Porty's development.
Development, agreed.
I'm saying if he develops, the Knicks might be like, you know what? Let's rock with Huck. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
All of those things are going to play factors. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say he won't. I'm just saying he might not. They may still be precautious with him. You know what I mean? I hope he plays. I think he's gonna play over 65 games this year. So I'm going on record with Mitch having his. Well, he played 72 once one year, but I think he's gonna play over 65 and have one of his most effective years.
I hope.
And make it a difficult choice for the Knicks. So what they gonna do? You know what I mean? Because I'm all for him getting his money and staying. I think he's that important to us.
I have a question for you when we talk about changes and things. Are there any guys out of the four guys that are we all consider them to be in the starting lineup? Brunson, Cat, OG, Mikal. Any chance, and it's not going to be Brunson or Cat. We know that. Any chance that Bridges or OG come off the bench for lineup reasons? Not because they're not good players, but for lineup reasons. Because you know what? These five guys work well. And these five guys work well.
With the current players on the roster?
Yeah.
If I had to say that one was more likely than the other, it would probably be Mikal. But I would put the likelihood at a low percentage.
Okay. The only reason why I asked that is because what if by bringing Mikal off the bench, let's just say Mikal, you maximize his scoring ability because now he's a primary focus. I guess you can do that too by just playing him with the bench.
Who would hypothetically be starting in his spot though?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? That would be the, because it's not just about maximizing Mikal. It's also about what that guy who's replacing him in the starting lineup
signed Malik Beasley, right? And they started Beasley and they started Yubusele, and then it was OG, and then it was Karl-Anthony Towns. And let's just say that happened just because the lineup worked well together.
Here's what I will say.
And off the bench, you had a little bit more height because, of
I think Mike Brown would be more inclined to
his height.
I think Mike Brown would be more inclined to try that because of what he sees than our previous coach, maybe.
Right.
I'll say that.
Well, he would, because he's new. Once he gets his lineup, he's got his lineup. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think that's etched in stone by the season opener? Like, this is what I got by the season opener? Do you think at that point it's edge and stone, or do you think
I kind of do. No,
he
I
still
kind of
needs
do. I mean, at
more
least that
film?
start. I think the starting lineup is going to be etched in stone by the season opener because, for the most part, I'm asking the question about Bridges or OG coming off the bench, but for the most part, we know those four are going to start.
Hmm.
So now you're just figuring out who the fifth person is.
But that would be your mindset coming into the season.
Hmm.
The data is what is going to determine what you're saying as far as this lineup works well together or best
Right.
together.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
right.
So
That's true.
you think he'll see that, be able to identify that between the
Yeah, because I
training
think,
camp and the
yep,
preseason?
yep, because I think Tom Thibodeau had his lineup in the training camp, and that's who it was. I think Mike Brown is going to be experimenting more during training camp because he's new. So he's probably got a bunch of different lineups in his brain. It's like, okay, let me see how this works, that works, this works, that works. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's going to do more experimenting during training camp than Thibodeau did. And then next season, there might be less experimenting during training camp.
Shout out to Don Cannon. He said, just a quick question: by game 15, and we look trash, will the firing of Tibbs come back to bite us? What's trash? 5-10 record. I would consider that trash. Uh, um, I mean that's not gonna look good. I don't at that. I don't think we could say it's gonna bite us until the season is complete, right?
Right.
Where like you know what I mean, like because we could have a slow start. We could, he could be trying to figure things out. Mike Brown and figuring out. To me, I know you saying you think he could identify these things by season opener. I think it might take more time um to identify, all the little
It could.
things, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
All the little nuances, all the little, yeah, it
but
could.
5-15 start, it's gonna
Man,
be a talk. It's gonna be a talk.
did Mr. Cannon, Mr. Cannon,
It's gonna
did
be a
you
talking
see,
point.
Mr. Cannon, did you see the schedule? We're not going 5-15 over the first 20. Who said 5-15?
Well, he said after 15 games. I'm at
Oh,
so I
oh,
said I
oh,
said
you
five
said
and ten
five.
though. I
Oh,
said 5-10, which is, I mean, again, I don't think that's gonna happen, but all hell is gonna break loose. And yes, it will be discussions amongst Knicks fans and Knicks
bro,
media and
we
Knicks
go
talking
five and
heads.
ten. I expect the Knicks to, you know, maybe the first part of the season be a little shaky. I don't expect them to be below 500,
Mm-mm.
but a little shaky because they're trying to figure some things out. But if we go 5-10, oh my goodness, it's gonna be crazy. You talk about Mike Brown being in the hot seat,
Shit, we go 5-5, they're gonna be questioning. They're gonna be questioning.
right?
Was he the right guy? But
I mean, it's everyone's. I mean, it's been questioning all summer. I just seen an article by Steph Bondy. I think I didn't read it. Saying how the front office is talking about the offense really as just the reason, to show to put a reason out there that they fired Thibodeau because the offense was rated fifth last year. You know what I'm saying? So like, they're saying, yeah, this is really just the reason. They're just making a reason up to say that they had to fire him, but it was fifth. I didn't read the article though.
I mean, here's the thing: you talking to two Tibbs supporters here, right? And again, I'm trying not to even have these discussions anymore because it is what it is. It's gone.
Yeah,
He's
it's cold.
gone. But I mean, there's been merit in the discussions of the past of being how is the fifth rate offense a failure. You know what I mean? How is getting
Right.
to the Eastern Conference Finals for the so there's gonna be talking points and points you can make about did he even deserve to be fired? We're not gonna rehash that. So yeah, if things don't go well, those discussions will get brought up,
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
and Mike Brown will be, what I mean, talked about as far as was he the right guy and things of that nature.
right.
But I don't expect that, man. I think this team is too well put together to like even in a bad season, I don't think it's gonna be disastrous. You know what I mean? It's gonna be more of us just taking longer to figure things out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on that. Let me end with your follow up. He said, "I'm only saying because y'all normally give them at least the first 15 games to see how we do. It's usually 20. It's usually 20. But yeah, I ain't again. If we not at 500 after 15 games or 20 games, yeah, you're
I
gonna
mean,
you're gonna
that,
you're gonna
that,
you're gonna hear some rants from me for sure.
we ain't at 500. That's gonna be disastrous. That's gonna be disastrous. Nick Yak said Tibbs got fired for not developing kids more likely. It's why I think we go 10 man, but different 12 to 13 men most night. Let me tell you something, Nick Yak. If we get a Malik Beasley, if we get a Ben Simmons, those kids ain't being developed either.
Maybe the wings.
Maybe.
Yeah, Tyler Kolick. Unfortunately, I think he dropped to the bottom of the totem pole of the 15-man roster at this point. Um, Now you talked about facilitating and that being one of our major needs. He also might be the best guy at that on the roster. You know what I mean? As being as far as being a true facilitator. But he's gonna have to hone his offensive skills to unlock his facilitating skills.
Right.
But I think he has the longest path to finding his way into the rotation or just being the developed. You know what I mean? I don't think this is his year, Kolick. I think he's got another year under his belt of just learning in the back. You know what I mean? Learning through the practices, getting some G League minutes. I think the wings have the wings and the bigs have a higher probability of just having the opportunity and being a need. These guys are potentially good defenders. You know what I mean? Plus
Right.
defenders, and again, that's one of our weaknesses. We got four good defenders, four good to great defenders on our team. So anybody else that could add that, I think, is going to have an edge before anything else. The offense is there. You know what I mean? And again, I still agree with you, Sim. Facilitating is a huge need of ours.
Hmm.
But I think the addition of Clarkston helped that. You know what I mean? The progression of Brunson, because he's gotten better in that area. Um, I think that helps. You know what I mean? How do we utilize Towns more, which could help in the facilitating and kind of spreading out the offense. So I think we got guys that could tap in a little bit and fill those holes a little bit. I don't know. I think Tyler slid, but I like Tyler.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's sliding in it. I mean, I've seen some workouts. He looked pretty good, but he's definitely sliding. Just with the depth that the team is adding, he's sliding. unless he just steps up and he's that good.
My last question, and I swear we out of here. There's been talks about trading Kolick and opening up a second spot for a second veteran minimum guy. Um,
Or could you trade him and
like you have to trade him for like draft picks or
right
whatever.
draft picks and open up more room to offer Malik Beasley more money?
More money, you could do that too.
Right.
You could do that too. Would you be open to the either one of those?
I would. I'm not one who thinks that he is the great white hope. I'm sorry. I don't. I don't think he's the great white hope. I don't think that he's going to end up being this great contributor to the basketball team. I really don't. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I hope that he proves me wrong. I really do. I really hope that he proves me wrong, but I just don't think that he's going to be this. I think he's going to be a backup point guard at best in the league.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little torn if I would do it, but I've seen a lot of people like kind of champion that as something that we should do. And it wasn't specifically for Beasley, you know what I mean? I've heard people say it about getting Ben Simmons and Shamit in, you know what I mean? And what like so just in general, I've seen a lot of people talk about their willingness to do it. Um that's one of my problems as a Knicks fan that I identify as a problem. I do get a little bit attached to the young guys um before they even prove that, you know what I mean, they are who they might end up being. But it's not a hell no, like Nick Yak said, hell no before you even ask the question. And I'm sorry, uh Donald Cannon said that, and then Nick Yak said he led the NCAA in assists the last 3 years with a 4-to-1 turnover ratio. But I would think about it. I wouldn't be mad at it. And to your point, Sim, it's not like I think we trade him and he's gonna become this all-star caliber or
Right.
even a starting caliber guy. You know what I mean? So it's not gonna come back to bite us in the ass, like you know what I mean? If not at the very least, not immediately. Like I said, I think he's still at least a year away to kind of finding his niche in the league. But that's all I got for
Yeah.
today.
I mean,
What you was gonna
Kolek
say,
is going
so?
to be, I was just going to say, Kolek is going to is an anomaly, right? Um, is he going to be? I don't know. I listen. Well, let's put it like this: he's not going to play next to Brunson because of the defense. So when is he ever going to be a starting point guard for the New York Knicks? Ah, he's not. Not with Brunson here. The most he's going to be is a backup. You can find those. I mean, he is a good facilitator.
Can he
He
prove
does
to be?
run the offense. I can say that.
Can he prove to be more valuable than one of our bench guys, or Deuce McBride or Clarkston? Because that's the hill. That's what he has to kind of do. And you know what I mean.
I don't
And,
think.
and I don't think so either. Not this year, at least.
I don't think so. Not this year, obviously. Not this year. Okay. If I mean Deuce is on a great contract. Over the next couple of years, if Deuce outplays that contract and goes someplace else, then maybe you got a backup. Or if you got to trade Deuce, you got a guy. I don't know. I'm just not as convinced as everybody else because he got a few assists. You know what I mean? I like him, good kid, but I don't know. I just, I'm just not as convinced as everybody else.
My last thing on him is the one thing he got going for him. He's under the tutelage of another small guard who is dominant, right? So if he could work on some things, if he could become the level of at least the level defender as Brunson, you know what I mean? Which again, we all know Brunson's not the
Mhm.
elite defender, but if he could be at least that level defender and the offense starts to pick up, I think it's going to open other things for him with the facilitating, which is the problem is he can't come in the league or can't come in the game and just try to rely on facilitating.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to be an offensive threat to open up that facilitating for
Right.
you.
Right. Now, Don, my man, Mr. Cannon, said, why can't we have our own homegrown? I mean, I get it. It'd be nice to have a homegrown guy. Deuce is homegrown. Mitch is homegrown, right?
And we got a plethora of guys on the back end
Some other guys that's,
waiting to come up. You know what I mean?
I
So
mean, Mitch has been on the team longer than everybody else. He's
longest
homegrown.
tenure.
And Deuce might be second behind him,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
So maybe got some homegrown guys.
I have a prediction, man. I think there's gonna be some news dropping tomorrow for the Knicks.
Oh,
So
shoot.
yeah, so we'll
Oh,
we'll see. I think it's gonna be Monday. If it ain't this Monday, it's gonna be next Monday on the first. But I
okay.
think I think it's gonna be on a Monday. Um, luckily I am off tomorrow, so if it drops tomorrow, I'll
Yeah.
do something. I'll do something quick. You know what I mean? I know Sim, you jump on as well.
I hope the announcement is that Mike Brown is going to sign me as an assistant coach. I'll take a couple mil.
Hey, just bring me along with you, Sim. I'll hold the bags or something. 10%.
I hope that's the announcement. I'll take a couple mil. Do it for a couple years. Come
But
back to the channel with a ring.
that's
Because
right.
James Dolan ain't gonna let me host the channel as a coach.
Yeah, there's gonna be some stipulations for sure.
For sure. He
I
ain't
think
happy.
that's a fair exchange though. We'll hold it down for you then.
No doubt. No doubt.
Anything you got coming up?
Um, yeah, I gotta see what the week holds as in transition. I seen somebody say something about, oh, maybe that was Donald Cannon said about homegrown players. Um, you know, so I gotta see what the week holds, but I plan to be back on sometime this week.
No doubt. If I'm available, I will be there with you.
No doubt.
We gotta find some time to get these stoops done. We
Yeah,
got the Ghostface album, you know what I mean?
Ghostface.
Um, a bunch of albums dropped this week, you know what I mean, that we could talk about. So um yeah, man, appreciate you jumping on with
Yeah,
me. Shout out to the chat, the replay gang. Until next time, your blackest time. We out of here.
Nick Yak, you're right. If I was a coach, Dolan is getting on the show. That's for sure.
Clean up that image some more.
Word.
All right, fellas, we
All
out
right.
of here. Peace and
Peace.
appreciate you.
No doubt.